system?
I'm very happy. I'm very scared. Lots of things is going through my mind because I have been on welfare awful long time. My plans is to get a job in drug and alcohol counseling, hopefully, and be able to take care of my kids for once.
For once by yourself?
Yes,
Does it scare you?
Yes, I'm very afraid. I'm very scared that I'm not going to make enough to take care of me and my babies, but I'm going to try.
Welcome back. Okay, I interrupted you. Unfortunately, we went to our quick break, and we came back to, again, Linda telling us about some of her fears, and I think they're well related to what we were talking about, which were these time limits. She had, it seems like, a number of years to get training.
Right. She probably had up to 2 years, which is now what the GAIN program allows, up to 2 years to obtain whatever comes first. If you've been in school, an AS degree, but mainly certificates. And that's one of the things that concerns me about welfare reform. That education does not have a priority with welfare reform. With this two-year limit, 5-year limit, there's going to be only a 12-month limit for education, and only a certain portion of the population will be able to take advantage of that. And you going to school, myself, and it took us a long time to get through, through education, even basic education. So that's a real concern of mine. A lot of our population need remedial education as well as vocational education. And in the community college, there's no way we can provide that in a year. So that's a big concern. I know we're working and providing perhaps short-term training, along with some remediation, but that's of concern. And I know that students they're fearful of the unknown. They don't know whether they're going to be able to finish, or they're going to be, allowed to finish now, or are they going to be asked to just, stay with a 12-month limit, and then be off. Most students, have goals to, go on to higher education.
Yes.
And because they know that if they obtain more education, they'll be able to earn more money.
That's right. There is a connection.
Therefore, being able to provide for their children. And I understand her fears. It's really scary to, first of all, get in a system. Then when you're in a system, it's really scary to get off the system and back into a system where, you're actually earning and you're paying all these bills and you're paying. So fear plays such a big role within this welfare reform. And I think personally, that when they say, mothers have a second child or a third child to stay on FTC, that's another way. That's fear as well. They don't know, if they get off or they get out their education, there hasn't been a hand to reach out to them and say, you don't need to do this. You can now come back and do education or
so
whatever.
It isn't even just getting the education, it's the self-confidence to then say, okay, I can use this education and I can make this work for me, which brings me back to my question in the opening about multi-generational welfare systems. I mean, I've certainly worked with a certain number of women in recovery whose moms and their moms had relied on the system. And their view of themselves as working people is not the same. I mean, they just don't have that picture. So I think for some people that we're talking about, it isn't just giving them a skill. I imagine it's shifting their self-image too. I mean, is something you've seen?
Yeah, that's certainly true. And there is a percentage of families that are second or even third generation public assistance, and we do want to change that. But we have to change that in a realistic way that's going to be effective. Let me just mention some things.
Sure.
Minimum wage is now $4.75 an hour after years of being $4.25. So if a person works at minimum wage, they will still be in poverty. In fact, they will be earning so little that they will still be eligible for AFDC. So imagine that, someone working $4.75 an hour. Child care averages $5.75 an hour. So a person could work full-time and not even be able to pay for the child care. Therefore, they're going to need subsidized child care. Minimum wage jobs usually don't have health insurance, so they will still be in need of and eligible for Medi-Cal, the Medicaid program in California. And the result will be that someone could be working full-time and still be in poverty and still be on AFDC. And let me mention that in Santa Clara County, 25% of the AFDC population have parents that are working full-time or part-time. So the problem is not just poverty, but low-wage jobs.
Okay. So, and again, that takes us back to why education is so crucial. Now, this idea of non-citizen legal immigrants are not eligible unless they've worked here 10 years. I know that's been a hot one in terms of illegal immigrants getting benefits and that sort of thing. Have you, in your experience, seen a lot of abuse of our system from illegal immigrants?
Go ahead.
No. Well, first of all, that's one of the major myths. Illegal immigrants are not eligible for public assistance, and they don't come to apply. The only thing that they're ever eligible for, and we have to actually do outreach to help to get them to come and to apply, is for immunization for the children, emergency medical care, and the kind of medical care that helps with someone that may have tuberculosis or positive smallpox or those tests. We have to actually go out there and search for these people and convince them to come in for medical treatment.
Okay.
And they're eligible for prenatal care, the moms.
Okay.
See, yeah.
So illegal immigrants do not get welfare.
No. And that's,
Legal-
yeah.
let me just finish.
Yeah.
Legal immigrants will now be cut off welfare. And that's really unfair because they've been here legally. They came through the country through a legal process, and they're working. They're paying taxes. Every day they're paying taxes. Through their job, they're filing W-2s, they're paying income tax, and they won't be eligible for anything at all. And we think that's unfair.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that seems rather... And you think that's because it kind of got lumped into this myth about illegal aliens, and so we're needing to just... I mean, what...
I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, that's
you know,
very confusing.
Right.
I think that's part of it, but the other part is the Congress, all the Congress and the President want to go face the election of 1996 saying, I passed welfare reform. So they all said that, and they did it. They passed the law, but they cut out the non-citizen, non-voting immigrant.
Okay.
And the result will be that a lot of people will be cut off that need the help. A lot of people will be cut off that have a right to the help because they've worked here. Imagine someone, for example, let's say somebody came here legally 9 years ago. They worked, and then they got sick. They were hurt in a car accident. They got old. They retired. They get supplemental security income, $625 a month. They have a right to that because they paid into the tax system to get that. They're going to be cut off. Where are they going to be? They're not going to necessarily go back to a country that they fled because of poverty or because of persecution or dictatorship. They're going to remain here, and they're going to become homeless.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, so it's sort of, in the long term, we need to look at that there are going to be effects from this. How about drug-convicted felons are lifetime ineligible? I don't understand that. So if I had been arrested for possession or then that means I would never receive benefits?
Yes. Now again,
Even if I'm not using now, or I've been clean and sober 10 years?
exactly. See, here's the problem. I personally don't like the idea that my tax dollars are going to support a drug-addicted person that is not using welfare to take care of their children. They're using the money to buy drugs. I don't want to do that. But let's imagine that 10 years ago, you were a naughty young person, you were using drugs, you got caught, you got convicted, you went to jail maybe, you went through rehabilitation, you went through treatment, you're now a responsible person, you have kids, you've been working for 10 or 20 years, and then your job gets downsized. You're out of a job, you have young kids, you go apply for welfare. They're going to say, well, 20 years ago, you were convicted of a felony. You're not eligible. Goodbye. What do you do? What do your children do?
Well,
That's what's so
good
crazy.
thought, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Particularly with my particular interest, which is addiction.
right. But that's what's so crazy about this whole
Yeah.
welfare reform that I
Yeah.
think we as citizens weren't given all of the facts, you know, and we were just given one way of looking and viewing things, you know, and we must get rid of all those illegal aliens, and we must, you know, do away
Crack
with.
using moms. Well,
Right, yeah.
and I'll mention again the teen parents living with a caretaking adult. I know that was certainly highlighted in the Mercury News a couple months ago, that idea that if you're to receive benefits, you have to be with an adult of some kind.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be your parent necessarily.
And again, this is a reasonably good idea when you think of some teenagers using the welfare money to party, to buy cars, to have a good time and not take care of the kids. I've seen many cases like that as a child welfare social worker. So we do have to do something about it, but again, this is reform with a sledgehammer
Yeah.
rather than with a carving knife. Many teenagers got pregnant because of an adult assault, a sexual assault. They are not all drug abusing, wild, crazy teenage moms.
Sure.
Some of them are good parents and they're doing the best. Now they'll have to live with a caretaking adult. That's not necessarily bad. The caretaking adult cannot be their older boyfriend or girlfriend. It should be mom, grandmother, an aunt. That's reasonable. And in many cases, that will be something that will work to the benefit of the children.
Yeah, I guess the key is going to be how we define caretaking.
Right.
Let's take a look at the next graphic that we have that you had brought. Let's see. Non-citizen legal immigrants are ineligible for food stamps. Unemployed adults without children eligible for only 3 months in any 3-year period. Okay, and non-citizen legal immigrants are ineligible for supplemental security income, SSI, unless they've worked for 10 years. Okay, so again, we get back to the non-citizen legal immigrant ineligible for food stamps, kind of like you were talking before about benefits. Unemployed adults without children for only 3 months in any 3-year period. So there are a certain number of people who apply for AFDC who don't have children, then, is what this implies.
For food stamps. AFDC, you have to have children.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so this is just for food stamps.
Now, again, let me put it into context. The food stamp program started in the 1960s, was the result of having excess food commodities that the agricultural department and the farmers didn't know what to do with, and we have people that didn't have enough money to eat nutritiously. So that program provided a special coupon that you can only use to buy food grown in the U.S., grown or processed in the United States. So it was a program that families would be eligible for maybe a lifetime if they had low-wage income. Now that will change. Again, it cut out a lot of people off off of food stamps. It will cut out all the non-citizen immigrants. And again, remember, they pay taxes. They work.
Sure.
They cannot get food stamps anymore unless they've worked for 10 years. So you
Okay.
pay into the system for 10 years, then you can draw some help. But let's say any one of us that are U.S. citizens, maybe we were even born here, we're working, we don't have kids, we lose our jobs, the company goes away to Indonesia or Singapore or somewhere, we can get food stamps for 3 months only. After 3 months, if you didn't find a job, you're on your own.
You're on your
You're on
own.
your own. And that's for the 3-year.
Yes.
We're going to need to close. I want to thank you so much for making time to come down and explain this to us. It's not necessarily happy news, but I'm certainly more clear, and I'm sure our viewers will be as well. Thank you for coming. Tune in next week as we address healing through touch. I'm Mary Crocker Cook. Good night.
For topic suggestions,